Have you ever noticed how hard it is to kind of hear our own voice and our own thoughts these days? I mean, there's so much content and things to consume and watch and listen to. I know in my own life, it seems like I always have something going on. I always have something playing on my phone. I always have my headphones whenever I go anywhere, because I know if I ever have a couple minutes of downtime, I'm going to put on someone else's voice. I'm going to put on a video or something that someone else made and produced, because it's just easier. It makes time go by a little bit faster. Think about all the things that we have to consume. We have social media, YouTube, Twitch, news, Netflix, all of these streaming services that are vying for our attention, hoping that we will spend our time on their product. I mean, even to some extent, I'm trying to do this with YouTube. I'm trying to get you to click on my video so that hopefully I can teach you something or make you think about something a different way. But ultimately what that ends up doing is drowning out our own voice and kind of killing our own creativity. The main idea that I had today, as I've been coming home from work and kind of was thinking on my ride home, is that our creativity is being buried and no one seems to care. So what can we actually do about it? That's what I kind of wanted to dive into and just kind of give my thoughts as I've thought about it a little bit more and more as I got home, and especially over the last 2 days. So creativity isn't just this passive thing that happens. I think it's something that nowadays you have to actively fight for. You have to go out and get, in a sense. It won't just come to you naturally, and if you're not really being intentional or kind of being actionable, then it kind of fades away. It becomes a lot easier to just be a full-on consumer of something rather than actually being a creative or producing something. And I think there's so many voices out there, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But ultimately what a lot of them are doing are simply copying or parroting what someone else is saying. And I'm not saying that you can't quote or get inspiration from anybody else, but I think we're really lacking that kind of unique spin that each one of us has, that unique personality that each one of us has. If we're not careful and we're not intentional about what we're actually doing, then we kind of lose that creative muscle. It fades away and we kind of just feel like we're stuck. You need to be one of the voices that are fighting for your own attention. You need to be the one in control of your time, of what you want to do, of the goals you want to achieve, and ultimately who you want to be. And I don't think it's necessarily about being louder than everybody else, but I think it's about being intentional with who we are and with our time especially. And I was thinking back on a previous work experience where I was kind of the only one in the office. You know, we had our shipping department, we had a couple other people, but ultimately I was the one in charge. I was kind of the manager, and I could have done literally anything I wanted to. And I kind of did. I decided that I was going to get things done as quick as I could, so I pounded those things out in the morning, and then ultimately I spent the rest of the day thinking, you know what, I could probably work on things that I want to work on. I could work on like this podcast or this YouTube show. I could start writing scripts or figuring out how I wanted to better market, or maybe write some blog posts or maybe a newsletter, kind of thinking of the different things that I want to do. But ultimately what I ended up doing was just watching other people's content. I started putting on YouTube video after YouTube video or live stream after live stream to just kind of burn away the hours. And I knew that I probably should have been doing something else, but I chose to do something that was way less fulfilling, that didn't ultimately do anything except burn some hours and burn some time. And especially when I look at some of the most profitable or maybe successful business people, they talk about how they wish they would have started sooner, that they would have gotten more into it and maybe gotten a little bit more creative earlier, because then it would have been a lot more fulfilling and rewarding for them later. And I think the same thing is happening in our own lives. They're these very common habits that we've all kind of picked up since the invention of modern cell phones. We live in a time where we have basically limitless access to any tutorial, any book, or any podcast, any show at any given point at any given time. And a lot of the time we're choosing to consume that instead of maybe creating our own thing, or maybe producing something that we really want to do. And I know I think that I'm kind of being productive if I'm watching these kind of tutorial content or this learning content, like, oh, it's okay, I'm learning something, so it makes it all right that I can keep watching these videos. But ultimately what ends up happening is I watch about 5, 10, 15 videos about these tutorials about how to do the thing, and then end up putting off actually doing the thing. Researching is not the same thing as doing your goal. Thinking and planning about things is not the same as doing your goal. YouTube's classes and these kind of tutorials can actually become a form of procrastination because we're just kind of kicking it down the road a little bit saying, well, I'm not prepared enough. I need to do a better job. I need to make sure that I better understand it before I really jump into it. And ultimately, we kind of don't create things because of that. So how do we shift from this kind of consumption-minded person to a more creative and hopefully productive person? One of the first things that kind of came to my mind was making sure that we're putting action above almost everything else. The only way to create something is to actually start creating the thing. Creativity is very much like a muscle. If you use it, it gets better and it gets stronger. If you don't, it kind of fades away. And honestly, when you're creating something, it doesn't matter if it's bad at first. In fact, it most likely will be. I like to think of this YouTube channel as kind of that for me right now. Honestly, the editing probably could be a lot better. The script writing could be a lot better. The delivery of the lines of the script and the preparing, all of these things could probably be a lot better. But I'm at least trying. And hopefully, as you kind of get into it and you learn more about it, then you hopefully improve over time. If you do something enough times, you'll end up getting better at it. And this is where we need to kind of get out of our heads. I remember when I was learning a language, the hardest part to kind of get over that initial hurdle for learning a language is making sure that you're okay with looking a little foolish, because you don't know all of the words. You don't know how to conjugate verbs or make sure your sentences are properly organized and aligned. But if you're okay with that, you can improve so much better. That's why I think when you kind of get thrown into a foreign country or whatnot, if you're just diving into the language and you're okay with asking someone where the library is, even though your grammar's maybe horrible or maybe they want to talk to you in English. And like when you're just truly thrown into that situation and you're traveling and you're really trying to get the language down, you have to just start speaking. You can only study and look up and research so much before you actually have to speak and put it out there. And the sooner you kind of get over that hurdle of, man, other people are going to think that maybe I'm dumb or maybe I don't know enough. That's okay. As soon as you kind of get over that initial hurdle, you can start actually making progress. And the real goal of becoming less of a consumer of content and whatnot and getting your own voice kind of back is moving from watching and learning and studying into actually trying and doing something, regardless of how foolish it may make you feel or how stupid it may make you look. Build the habit of actually doing something. The other thing that I think is really important when talking about creativity, and this is something that I've noticed a lot while scrolling through Reels and YouTube content and whatnot, is that there's a lot of copycats out there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, like I said earlier, but you have to make sure that you put your own unique spin or flavor on it. If you're doing the exact same thing that someone else is doing, it's not being creative. You have to actually put your own unique flavor on it. That's why some of the best reels are some of the people reacting to other people. And hopefully not saying the exact same thing someone else said, but putting their own unique spin on it, their own unique take in a way. You can be inspired by others, but make sure you filter it through your own lens and make sure that you're talking about things that are actually important to you, because you're the only you there is. Creativity isn't about inventing something completely new from scratch. It's about making something of your own, regardless of what that is. And I would encourage you to kind of trust your own voice, even if it feels very unpolished and imperfect. That's okay. You can get there over time, but you have to start taking those first few steps. There's so many voices out there right now. I'm one vying for your attention right now. And I hope that after you watch this video, you kind of get out of your own head and hopefully start making progress towards those goals. I mean, that was the idea with the habit tracker I created, is to try to put down some actionable steps, some small goals that you can actively work towards each and every day. Your voice is still in there, and you just have to start listening to it again. Right now, we're kind of drowning in so many voices, in so many things that are always going on. I know in my life, I can't fold laundry. I can't do the dishes without having something playing or going on my phone. It almost feels kind of eerie to be alone and to not have that thing kind of going on. But as I've tried to do that more and more over the past week or so, it's kind of become a little bit more clear about who I am and what I ultimately want to accomplish. And it kind of opens that door to inspiration. The thing that I've talked about a little bit in a couple of other videos, but finding inspiration for me is making sure that I capitalize on it as soon as I possibly can. Because I know it's fleeting, and I know that if I don't jump on it right then and there, then it's gone. And if I'm busy watching somebody's YouTube content or maybe watching some video game streamer on Twitch, I'm ultimately losing out on that inspiration or losing out on that creative progress that I could be making. So here's what I'm going to be trying to do for the next month. I'm really going to limit the amount I use my phone. This is both for listening to podcasts, YouTube, Twitch, Netflix, Amazon Prime, all of the streaming services that I kind of have going on at any given point. But I kind of want to do a better job of just putting it aside and being more creative, being more intentional with how I spend my time, letting my own voice kind of be the predominant voice in my life. And I'd encourage you to do the same. We have to really try to fight for our own creativity because no one else is going to do it for you. You have to be the one to make that choice, and you have to be the one that fights for it. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.